Mark here with the Exiles, quick lockdown video. Hope you can hear me okay. It's a little bit windy, so I've got my phone in the shed pointing out. Hope you forgive that. It's the wonders of home filming. So I'm going to call this video my Rondel ramble. Okay, so we see the same sort of questions coming up from time to time, some more often than others, around the Rondel dagger, its use, what you can do with it, what it's for. And so I thought I would do a bit of a ramble. Get everything in one place. I'm just going to dump everything into one very quick, or as quick as I can, video. Just some of those really frequent questions that come up about this kind of weapon, just so that rather than constantly repeating myself, writing out long messages to people, etc, etc, I can just point them at the video. So a couple of things to bear in mind. So one, where a lot of people say they train with Rondel daggers, they don't train with them very often, okay? And in my view, and this is probably going to piss a lot of people off, but they don't train with it with the right mentality, the right context in their mind, okay? They play with it. The interesting thing about this kind of thing, short stabby implements, is that we can actually take an awful lot from the modern day and apply it looking back, okay? You can't really do that with sword work, you can't really do that with pole axes, but you can with this kind of thing. So it probably frustrates me more than anything else when there's a lot of armchair experts who want to jump on the bandwagon of short stabby stuff, and a lot of them have absolutely no clue what they're talking about, and they don't understand the physiological effect of using a weapon like this and its impact on how you actually apply technique, cover and react to stuff. So that's my moan out of the way. So this is Todd Stuff dagger. Rondel dagger, it's triangular, it's a beautiful bit of kit, and it's exactly the kind of thing depicted in Fury's works, okay? It is about as sharp as you can make a weapon like this, okay? Because it's not a cutting weapon, it's not as sharp as a knife, it's certainly not as sharp as something like a kitchen knife, but it's about as sharp as you can make it. So the question that probably gets asked more often than not is, can you cut with them? The answer is you can cut with them, okay? It's not going to be a meaningful cut, okay? If they've got even the very basic amount of protection on, even a very thin doublet, a cut is going to do absolutely nothing. It's going to piss them off. And while I'm busy trying to cut at someone, they are busier trying to stick this thing down my throat, okay? So you can cut. It's not going to be very effective, it's not going to be very meaningful, and it's probably not this kind of thing you want to be doing. You don't really want to be cutting with one of these things, and I'll come on to that in a second. That being said, it's quite a heavy piece of steel with an edge, okay? If I strike at the hand of someone, it's going to cut them, yeah? It's going to cause damage. It'd be more percussive than a slice, I should imagine. But you know, I'm not saying that it's, you know, you wouldn't whack someone on the hands and expect to hurt them, but it's not going to be anything meaningful, okay? They're still going to probably be fight effective, and you don't really want that to be the case when you're fighting with these things. Let's just quickly talk about the context of Fury with some of these things. So the thing about Fury Deliberate and his works is, even when we look at other systems from slightly later or much later, the context has changed a lot from Fury, okay? Fury is specifically around matters of life and death, okay? In the barriers, self-defense, he's basically giving you the tools to cover it all. So when he's looking at applying stuff to a dagger, he's looking at ending the fight as quickly as possible, okay? And stabbing is the way to do that. People stab in anger. Again, we can take a lot about what happens today and apply it back. So if we look at modern knife crime, when these kids are running around, I mean, I live within 50 miles of London, and there's a lot, you know, that's had a knife problem as a city for several years. These kids are running around stabbing each other. They are stabbing, even with kitchen knives, they're stabbing, okay? If people are taking injuries and unfortunately dying because they've been slashed, it's generally because of an accident, okay? Someone's pulled out a knife, they don't want to kill the person in front of them, so they just start slashing, okay? And quite often what will happen is someone will catch it across the artery or the neck, and they will unfortunately die. But when these kids are running around trying to kill each other, and they are trying to kill each other, they are stabbing each other, because people stab in anger, okay? And that's exactly the same in Fury's period, okay? So regardless of armour and things like that, not only do you not want to slash because it's not going to really do anything, but when you're dealing with violent confrontation, yeah, Fury shows defence in the street, shows someone stabbing him with a dagger from a seated position, yeah? These are aggressive attacks, they are stabbing attacks. So they can cut, you probably don't want to cut, and people don't cut at you. And if you're in that kind of fight, in Fury's period, where someone has pulled out a bollock knife or a normal knife and they are waving it around, then I suppose Fury would just wait back until they're given him something that he can work off, i.e. a stab. Okay, if someone's slashing at you, it's a different kind of fire. That being said, the question is often asked, can you do dagger techniques against knives? The answer is absolutely yes, you can. You can, as long as you understand the differences. Okay, let's just switch this back to Fury. I talked about the seated, where he's sat down and someone attacks him with a dagger. In that moment, there's no way to know if that's a dagger or a knife. Basically, it's a short stabby thing and you react to it. So that hasn't changed. That's telling us something direct from the manuscript. That hasn't changed, okay? So where I say that if you understand the differences between knives and daggers, you can apply dagger technique to knives, it helps to understand the differences, but you're not always going to have that moment in time to go, hold on a minute, they're stabbing me with a knife, I better do something different. It doesn't really work like that. So it's a lot to do with how you train and what you train. Not all dagger systems are the same, but talking specifically about Fury Deliberate's work, you can absolutely apply his dagger stuff to knives. You can apply it to any short stabby implement as long as they are aggressive and they are stabbing you, okay? If they are slashing you, which probably wouldn't have been that big a deal in the period, if they are slashing you, you wait, okay? You wait until they do something meaningful. And if you don't have a choice, if they are slashing and you don't have a choice, then you still treat it the same, okay? You trap the arm, you stop them from doing repeated attacks, you isolate and you disarm, okay? If I'm disarming a dagger, if I've wrapped someone and I'm disarming a dagger, I can do that because it's not that sharp. Easy, I can disarm them, no problem. If they stab at me and I cover and I realise, oh my god, it's a knife, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to grab it and I'm still going to disarm them, okay? I might get cut, but I haven't been stabbed. And that's going back to the mentality piece, okay? And this is my frustration with people talking about stuff like this. It doesn't matter. The main thing that matters is that you're not getting stabbed. I say in pretty much every class, every workshop I've ever done, only an idiot expects to use something like this or a knife in close range and not get hurt, okay? It's just a reality. You will get cut, you will get hurt, of course you will. The idea is to hurt them more than they hurt you. The next thing that comes up from time to time, not as often as the first two elements there, is can you, if you do Hema dagger, can you defend yourself in the modern world? This is not an easy question to answer because it's a lot more about mentality and approach, and it's a lot more about situational awareness. The consequences of defence are much different now than they used to be, and quite different from the period. But the answer is technically, practically, yes. Okay, if you have some training in anything like this, whether it's a modern system or a historic one, it's going to be better than nothing. Technically speaking, you can absolutely apply, if you've done a lot of Hema dagger, you can absolutely apply what you've learned to a self-defense situation if you had to. But it doesn't automatically mean you're going to be any good at it. There's a lot more to consider about self-defense. There's the mentality, there's adrenaline, there's all kinds of stuff, the physiological effect, shock, reaction times, there's so much more to it than that. But in principle, technically speaking, if someone's stabbing at you now or 600 years ago, it's the same, okay? And a lot of it comes down to training. I mean, I have a big issue with people doing self-defense anyway, because half of them have never been in a real fight, and therefore they don't understand a diddly squat about aggressive confrontation. But technically speaking, yes, you can rely on your skills in the modern arena. Practically speaking, it's a completely different ball game, and it's not a ball game that you can really practice, is it? You can't practice realistically someone trying to stab you. So I would say it's possible, it's better than nothing, but don't assume that because you do lots of Hema dagger you're going to be good against some youth in the street pulling out a knife asking for your wallet. There's a lot more to it than that, okay? The next one in my rondel ramble is about the actual rondels, these things, the discs on the thing. What are they for? Okay, there's a lot of theories about this. Some of them are fantastic, some of them I'd agree with. to be honest, in my view, the reason for these things, and some of them is discs here, the rondels, the reason, some of them were quite big and some of them were quite small. The biggest benefit to having those on your weapon is to keep it in your bloody hand. Okay, if I'm armoured or I'm aggressively using this thing against another trained opponent and they are trapping my arms, I've got limited visibility, they're trapping my arms, they're wrapping, they're trying to strip it, I want to keep that thing in my hand. I want to know where it is at all times. I don't want to lose grip. I don't want my hand to move around on the thing. I want to know where that thing is, no matter what they're doing, no matter where I am. I want to keep it in my hand, and I want it to be difficult for them to take it out of my hand if they're wrapping it. I want to know where it is. That's one of the big advantages of having these rondels on the thing. They're also particularly useful when you're actually hitting stuff as well at power, because you've got to go pretty full on, even against a completely unarmoured person. You're going to be hitting them hard. You want to stop your hand from moving around on the thing. You want control of it. Yeah. There's an interesting video within the last month from a good bloke in London who basically said that these things are to help defend your hands. Okay, against, presumably he meant against someone else thrusting down the same line. I'd say yeah, maybe, but the chances of you both thrusting down the same line are going to be pretty slim. But yeah, I mean, they would give you some protection against the hands for sure, but in my view it's not the real reason why they were there. So that's it. So I think I covered like 4 points there. It is a ramble. I'm sure I'm going to get some shit for some of this, but it feels like it's that kind of day. As I say, we do Dagger as much as we do sword, and we train it in a way that's very, very focused on reality. And I speak from experience with a lot of this stuff. And to truly appreciate this sort of thing, any short stabby implement, it's a lot more about the situation, how people move, how people react. It's a lot more about that than it is about just using the thing and the techniques and all the rest of it. Yeah, techniques are wonderful, but if you're not putting them in the right context and applying them in the right way, they're meaningless, they're useless. So, you know, so we train with these things quite a lot. Cool, that's my ramble over, and it was a ramble, I do apologise, but hope it was useful, and thanks for watching.